All right, everyone, we are live now. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today we have Rishab with us. Rishab, thank you so much for joining. I know there was some miscommunication last weekend. Like I had some work and I couldn't convey to you, so we had to cancel it at the last moment. But thank you for accepting my invite to join again. Thank you so
No
much.
worries, no worries. Thanks for having me, Piyush. Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
We talk. I
Mhm.
think people don't know we talk offline quite a bit.
Yeah.
It was great doing the podcast and then also the DevOps stream with others. But I'm glad we're finally
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
do it.
I'm glad to. I'm glad to. So, people are getting a lot of value out of these sessions.
Mm,
We didn't realize it earlier when we were doing it, but now when people reach out to us and ask us, hey, when are we going live again? And people request us, people ask us to see, okay, who's gonna be the next guest, or when Rishabh will be coming to our session. So it's really motivating factor to see that people are really enjoying it, and they are getting some value out of it, which is why we are doing it, which is why we are trying to do our best.
yeah,
So let's start today's session. So I guess like few people have joined already. We have Ram. Hello Ram. Hello Ranjan. Hey Ame. Hello Mohit. Hello Vijay. Hello Ranjan again. And okay. So today's agenda, what we were thinking is maybe we could start taking some DevOps and cloud Q&A questions, and yeah, I mean that's should be a good like if you guys have any question, please let us know in the comment section below, and please tell us from where are you joining, and like any questions that you have in mind, we will be happy to answer. Rishabh is here
for
with
sure.
us, fully charged. Rishabh had
Yes,
his coffee yet?
yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I feel like I saw the poll you did, and I saw the responses, and I feel like, especially now, I also saw like, Shubham was also doing a lot of DevOps stuff now with Kubernetes, which is great. It gives you like the hands-on kind of approach
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
doing challenges and projects. And for you, I don't know how you keep up with uh, posting like those daily AZ 900. I think you were doing like you're on
I
day
was
17, right?
Yeah, so I was, when I started it, I thought of doing it daily. So I did it for like a couple of weeks.
Mm,
And then, like, it really exhausted me, man. I mean,
it is.
publishing it, creating it, and then editing it, it took a lot of time and energy from me. So I like I'm now taking it slow. So I'm
Mm,
trying to publish 2 videos per week for that, so
okay,
that we could just finish it as soon as possible, and we could start taking some doubts or any sessions that people would want us to have. So
definitely.
that was the plan. But yeah, and also, like, because when I was publishing it like really frequently, like the response that I was getting was really good. Now, like, people have started it taking it easily, and like there are not
Ah,
much people watching it now. So my plan is to finish that as soon as possible. There are only a few videos left. I'm on the last topic at the moment.
nice, nice.
So yeah, hey Akshay, thanks for joining.
Yeah, Akshay.
It's great to have you here. So,
Yeah.
Rishabh, if you don't know, Akshay is also doing a lot of community work, and we are like he's been hosting a lot of Twitter spaces, and he's running a community as well. It's growing community, growing
Oh,
tech
nice.
community, and yeah, Akshay and Shubh, these guys are doing amazing work, and in open source, and helping people get into cloud and DevOps, and he's also learning it. He's doing DevOps internship, but he's also learning and spreading the knowledge that
Yeah.
he's gained already. Yeah, so he's
Oh,
on to a right path.
definitely.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
getting to learn a lot of from him.
Yeah. I remember. So I used to do live streams every Tuesday, and like Akshay was one of
Mhm.
the active
Yeah, he was
like
telling me that he
live
used to
stream
in yeah.
members.
So you have stopped doing it now, or?
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, just work and I guess
Yeah, I know.
um
I understand.
like other YouTube stuff that I want to do. There's only like certain amount of time, like you said, it's hard to like
Yeah.
keep pushing,
Yes.
especially like I started seeing there was not initially there was value because I would
Mm-hmm.
do Q&A, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
people would ask me questions about, hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
stuck in this, or
Mm-hmm.
hey, like career focused questions. And then slowly that started dying,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because people's questions were answered, at least for the audience that I have.
Yeah. True.
And then people would just come to the live stream and hang out, like just
Yes.
chill and see what I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, this is not, you know, the value that I want to provide. Like I could be creating a YouTube video about
Exactly. Yeah.
Azure or AWS right now instead of
Mm-hmm.
doing a live stream. But yeah, I'm glad we are doing this.
Yeah.
It feels like, people still need that channel. Uh,
Yes.
hey, can we ask questions? And is there like a forum that will be available? And I think this is the best way to do it
Yeah.
instead of, messaging or like DMs because
Because having conversation with DM, it's like it has a lot of disadvantage. Like first is it's one on one.
yeah.
So there'll be questions that multiple people have and only one get the answer. And
Mhm.
also it's hard for us as well. Like we get so many DMs every day and it
Exactly.
takes a lot of time to just even replying to those DMs. So
Yep.
I guess, yeah, this would be a great platform for everyone to ask question and get their question answered in the real time, and like others can also take advantage of these. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's
Hell,
great.
definitely, yeah.
So Ram is saying he joined from Bangalore. What are some DevOps tools and technology that are commonly used in big companies for software development, deployment, and management?
Hmm.
So maybe Rishabh, you can chime in, and I'll try to add it.
Sure. I think the biggest one that I've seen so far is Azure DevOps in the recent years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Azure gives you like a managed DevOps provider, which you can build pipelines in for your CI/CD. You can have your source control in it, so you don't have. You can use GitHub, but it is like the entire
Yes.
solution in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Not like So I know tools. I used to use a tool called TeamCity,
Mm-hmm.
which had a lot of like good enterprise customers and was used widely along with Bitbucket. But then you have now two tools. One is for your version control, so where your code resides, and then TeamCity or Jenkins you might use to build your pipelines. I think that's when like Microsoft came in and doing like Azure DevOps was just great because you already have these agreements and licenses in place with Microsoft because most of the times there will be employees in a company that are using Windows machines.
Mm-hmm.
So you already have some kind of contract with Microsoft, and I think they offered like huge discounts if you're using
Yeah.
Azure and
Yeah.
other
And for
services.
POC, it's pretty easy. It's like, I
Yes,
guess, 5 users per month free already there. So anyone can go ahead and try doing a POC using that.
exactly. So I think yeah, Azure DevOps is a good one. Um, and I would also like start exploring if this is just from the basis of looking for a job.
Mhm.
Like see which community or like which area you are in, which city, and see like what are the big companies are using in DevOps. If you want to like secure a job, because your odds increase if you know one too. But I also keep saying this: don't like focus on the concepts. Tools are they can be learned
Yeah. Yeah.
easily by
Yeah.
spending a week
Hmm.
because the concept is same. They're trying to solve the same problem.
Yes.
It's just that maybe in the UI the button is at a different location and it's
Hmm.
called something different.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like that's beautifully explained. And I also say this all the time, like, don't run behind the tools. Just try to understand the concept and try to pick one tool and do some, like get some excellence in that. And once you do that, it will be easier for you to move from one tool to another. And Azure DevOps is a great example. Like when I started using it, I became fan of it because earlier, like 3-4 years back, I was working as a DevOps tech lead in CIBC. Over there,
Mm,
we were using Jenkins, then Artifactory for package management, GitHub, and then we had a couple of more tools, right? So it was really hard to integrate those tool chains together. There were a lot of
mm,
networking hops in between. There were a lot of security involved in that. But when Azure DevOps came into the picture, it eliminates everything, because now you have everything as a single pane of glass, and everything is integrated and tightly coupled together. So like it eliminates a lot of issues that we used to had earlier, and and it's doing great. Like there are amazing use cases that we could build on top of that. So yeah, that's
Definitely.
really amazing. All right. So we have Priyankar. Hi, Priyankar. Priyankar is saying Shubh is also doing great. And we have Akshay. Thank you, Akshay. And we have Shubha as well. Hi, Shubh. We were just talking about you a few minutes back. And Karuba, hi. And Karuba has this question: Sir, I am from mechanical background. Can I pursue DevOps? And how it is for non-tech field? So help me getting a DevOps. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the first question is, I guess, if it's possible. It is
Yeah, to move
possible.
from non-tech to DevOps, and as he's from the mechanical background.
Yeah. So it's possible, given that you set up a good, like, kind of roadmap and plan to work towards it, gain the skills that are necessary, which I'm pretty sure, if you have seen Piyush or you know other creators who were in the chat, their videos or my videos, like, we have mentioned the skills that are needed to get into DevOps. And once you start focusing on that, I feel like it's doable. I don't want to put any, like, time constraints, but to me it's possible within, like, I don't know, a year,
Yep.
given like how much time you spend each day,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And that could
Definitely.
be another factor, because maybe you are already working
Hmm.
a job in the mechanical field, and you only have, like, I don't know, an hour a day kind of,
Hmm.
that you can study for. But given the fact, if you're ready to put in the work and gain those skills, I think it's
Hmm.
doable. um I'm Piyush, is it okay if I plug
No,
my
no.
plug
Sorry.
my
Yes,
repo?
yes, definitely, definitely. Please go ahead. That's why we are doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please
So
go ahead.
yeah, I have a DevOps guide repo that you can check on my GitHub. Also, you can go to my channel. I have a whole dedicated video on the DevOps roadmap for 2023. It dives really deep into, like, the basic fundamentals that are needed for DevOps, and then
Maybe I'll share those links as well in the description once we ended the broadcast. Okay. I'll share those links as well.
sounds good. But yeah, it starts from, like, version control system. So make sure you have the prerequisites too, right? Since you'll be from non-tech background, like, make sure understand networking, right? Like how internet works, how a packet basically goes from one computer to another computer. That's basically how everything in cloud and, like, in today's world work. Um, so internet networking is a good start, and then learn a bit about Linux, because Linux is your, like, go to operating system when you are dealing with servers in the cloud, which brings to the third prerequisite, which is cloud. So you need to at least understand the basics of cloud computing, and at least learn one cloud provider. It could be any, it could be AWS, Azure, GCP, depending on which cloud provider you like or has more demand in your area. And then, after you're done with these prerequisites, the DevOps focus skills that are needed, the first one is version control systems. So make sure you understand Git, and the greatest tool, which is free, that is available to you, is GitHub. So most of the times when you create projects, you need a place where you can store your code, and GitHub is a great way to start. It also is a great way to showcase, when you're interviewing, that, hey, I have an active GitHub. You can look at my projects here. Once you're done with version control, start looking into CI/CD. So CI stands for continuous integration, CD is continuous deployment. Look at how you can utilize free tools like GitHub Actions to deploy your projects that you might have built to cloud, basically. So CI/CD, then you can dive into IAC, which is infrastructure as code. So tools like Pulumi, or Terraform are great to start with, because they're cloud agnostic. So they're not tied to a vendor. You can deploy your infrastructure using code in AWS, Azure, GCP, DigitalOcean, Cloudflare, any of the cloud that
Yeah, any
exists.
cloud. Yes. Yes.
And after you're done with IAC, focus on containerization. And this is really important now because containerization, like I feel like at least there are a lot of companies that use containers now. So
Yeah,
familiarize how,
almost every company is using, and
yeah,
everyone is moving to Kubernetes, and
exactly.
it's the next big thing that is going on right now, and it's nowadays must have for any cloud or DevOps role.
Yep. Um, So, yeah, familiarize yourself with how it's different than a traditional architecture where you are not using a server to host, your website or your project, like, using Apache or IIS. Instead of that, now you have containers, and learn about Docker, how it enables containerization, and then learn Kubernetes, which basically lets you orchestrate how different containers, you can manage them. Um, and this will take the majority of the time, right? Containers in itself is like really big concept. After that, I feel like observability and monitoring is really good to have under your skill set. So learn like what key metrics are really important, how you can monitor them, how you can do logging. So there are open source tools like Grafana and Prometheus that you can take advantage of when learning about this. Because one of the feedback that I get, Piyush, is that, oh, I want to learn Datadog or some other
Mhm.
really cool,
Yeah.
fancy monitoring tool, but they're expensive. So I would say stick with the free open source
Yeah,
versions.
there are these amazing open source tools that are available, so we shouldn't be restricted to learn anything or to do hands on anything. Prometheus is an amazing tool, Grafana, and like it's not like they have recently been emerged. It's been there for a while, and they have developed, and they have been stabilized. Every cloud provider is using mostly because GCP also has this managed Prometheus service, so
Mhm.
even GCP is using Prometheus as one of their monitoring tools.
Yeah.
So yes, these are amazing tools. Feel free to take advantage of it, and you can easily set it up, easily get started with it. There is a very little learning curve to that.
Yeah, and I think once you get the job, right, like you will have ample of opportunities to explore these paid tools that are used in the industries.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so observability, monitoring, and oh, I forgot one configuration management, right? So like tools like Ansible and Chef, learn why they're important. They're still being used at
Yeah.
certain, especially like I feel like in fintech, like banks
Mhm.
and stuff, they're
Mhm.
still being used a
But
lot.
Rishabh, I feel like I have this question from you. Like I feel like the use of configuration management has been in a depleted curve nowadays. Like
Yes.
earlier we used to use it a lot, but now that we are mostly using infrastructure as a code, and
Hmm.
we are just provisioning and decommissioning infrastructure on demand and applying the updates. We are using blue green deployments and all those. So that makes these tools less relevant nowadays. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that brings me to a good point of so when you check the DevOps guide
Mm,
repository is available at literally the same URL. So it's called the DevOps.guide. The configuration management, if you click on that chapter, it's empty right now. Because I'm like, me personally, I have not used it, right?
Yeah,
Because
even I
of
haven't used, like
just
I
the
used
reasons you
it
said.
once. Yeah, I used it once, like a long time back, but
Mm.
not in recent years. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I feel like I've used Chef for
mm,
something in the
yes,
past, but then
chef. Yes.
tools like like you said, the
Mm,
concepts that are now in play with the tools that are available to us, like it has shifted, and we have now better ways of managing and updating infrastructure.
yeah.
Like remember the good old days when we used Python and PowerShell and
Mm,
Bash to write scripts on the server and then do like updates
yeah.
or releases and stuff,
Uh,
whereas now
Before
everything
that,
is
before that, I remember creating an expect script that would go into 15 servers at once and do some operations. So I had
exactly.
to write the entire script for that. But now after that, like the configuration management came into the picture, Chef,
Hmm.
Ansible, they really changed the game. now after that, like every cloud provider have these services for patching, like AWS has system manager,
Oh
and
yeah.
every cloud providers has these services that you can use to easily manage your servers and everything. So yeah, but it's good to have skill. Definitely you should be learning it, because there'll be some companies still using it, and there are some use case like for on premises, VMware, bare metal, all those hosting platforms, people will still be using configuration management.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think like, yeah, the only reason I say, it is good to like don't go deep and like like,
Mhm.
start putting out chef and Ansible scripts, but have an understanding of it,
Yeah,
because who knows?
yeah,
You
exactly.
apply to a company and they're like, in the interview they ask, "Oh,
Mhm.
do you know about Ansible and chef?"
Yeah,
And
sometimes even if they are not using it, they
yeah,
just ask it
exactly.
because
Yeah.
it's there. Yeah, okay. So that's beautifully explained. I guess
Awesome.
you have covered everything
Yeah.
that is needed to know, and I hope Kuruba got the answer. Let's okay. Singer stories, what a consistency and performance. Thank you so much, sir. So he's the friend. Thank you so much, Aniket. All right. So Saurabh is saying I'm currently learning DevOps tools such as Docker and Kubernetes, but I don't know how can I upgrade myself with projects and gain thorough understanding of these technologies. Kindly help me. So I'll just give a short answer to that, and then I'll hand over to Rishabh for that. So there are lot of people that have been providing these projects ideas that you can build and develop to showcase your skills, like Rishabh is running a cloud resume challenge, and there are few other projects that he has built on top of that. And try to look into those things, try to implement those projects, and then you can showcase that in your GitHub profile, your blog post, and your resume. So it will definitely help you get that hands-on experience that you are looking for. And also we are starting from today onwards, like after this session at 11 a.m EST, we will be starting DevOps and cloud projects series for the next 10 weeks. So today we will be starting with a simple challenge, and I'll provide you all the details, so feel free to join our Discord community. And we'll be developing some projects together for the next 10 weeks, so 10 projects that will help you get that real hands-on experience, be it cloud or DevOps. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Rishabh.
Yeah, no, so awesome. So like look for opportunities like, Piyush mentioned is there are a lot of great creators out there. And just as Piyush mentioned, like he's doing a 10-week series, like I think that's the best way to, um do a project, because not only you'll get an idea if you're struggling with coming up with ideas, but also you will have support not only from Piyush but also the community,
Yeah,
because
from the whole community, yes.
everyone will be doing it
Mm.
at the same time. People will run into issues that others are not running in, so you will have someone available to be like, oh, I ran into the same issue, like this is what you do, kind of thing. And I think that's why like building in community or like building in public is so important, because not everything is documented. As of right now, you might run into some interesting challenges that other people will too. um it goes back to the concept of having this live stream is this conversation is public, right? So people might ask questions like you did, Saurabh, and there will be people who might have the same question, and it's being answered, right? Same thing is with the projects. Yeah, if you're specifically looking for Docker and Kubernetes, pick any app. Pick any app. Almost every like SDK or programming language now has some kind of support for containerization. Even .NET has support for
Yep.
containerization now. Pick that app, try to containerize it using Docker and Kubernetes, and see how you can do that. I know it can be hard if you're just starting out. So yeah, look for opportunities like Piyush mentioned, where it's a weekly challenge and you have a community behind it that's running it.
That's amazing. Okay, so Shubh is asking how much Linux one should know in order to get started.
I am biased. I love Linux, so you should know Linux. But um, technically speaking, I feel like you should know. your way around navigating the, file structure. So, you should know like, oh, logs exist in var, right? Etc, boot, like what all these directories are,
Mm-hmm.
how they work, where are the configuration files, where are the log files when you're troubleshooting.
Yep.
Also, like, have good understanding of like the bash and command line. So, like, what are different commands you can use to, like, take advantage of a Linux server. So, like, I remember when you're dealing with, troubleshooting stuff, you have to know like tail, grep, and some regex that you can manipulate your grep command to just
Yep.
show the log that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just looking for errors, maybe 404, like, see how you can do that with grep. So yeah, like, CLI knowledge is really important. I feel like the other reason it's important is, so any of the command line tools from like AWS, Azure, GCP, or any other tools like Docker and stuff, all of the CLI options are built on top of like
Mm-hmm.
Bash. So,
Yep.
like, you can literally see how the naming convention works. It's like command, action, and then something.
Mm-hmm.
Command, action, or flag. So if you know Linux command line, you'll have a good grasp of, AWS CLI or Azure CLI.
Mm-hmm. And it's
That's my
really
take.
interesting, and it's really interesting as well, like once you start working on it, once you start implementing the use cases or writing commands, you'll get fun. You'll have some fun with those commands. I guess it's really important to know. And like you've mentioned, like all these commands, like regex expressions, awk command, cut command, and then some commands that you use to troubleshoot the slowness of a VM, like top
Top,
command,
yeah.
and memories, how to check the memory
Oh yeah.
utilization, disk-based utilizations. So all those from administration perspective and from usability perspective. So you should have a good hands-on knowledge on that, and yeah, I guess you should be good then. All right. So Ram is asking, what is the recommended setup for production Kubernetes environment, including hardware and software, network consideration, security? So this is really, a broader question,
Yeah,
Ram.
I was
So
gonna say that.
there is no one use case for everything. There are solution architects, there are solution consultants, cloud architects that design these architecture based on the requirements. So you have your business requirement, you have your technical requirements, and after analyzing all those requirements, you build or propose a architecture that is highly available, fault tolerant, and has the security best practices. It also keeps in mind the cost consideration you have, like the budget requirements that you have, and
Mhm.
where we can save the cost, or where cost is not a matter but high availability and performance is the top priority. So there are like hundreds of these factors. After that only we can design a Kubernetes architecture or any cloud architecture, as a matter of fact. So yeah, that's again, like if Rishabh want to add anything on top of that.
No, I think you covered it really good. Yeah, it's a really broad question. It depends on a lot of factors, and um, yeah, there are specialized people, who take all these external factors into consideration and then design it. And it also depends on your app, right? Like, what you are running and how much power it needs when it comes to like uh, especially like hardware and networking requirements. Um, and then software requirements is a whole another thing in its own. So
Mhm.
yeah, it depends on what you're running, and how many users you have, right? Things like that.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, there are, I mean, a lot of factors that you need to consider before starting to implement any solution. So there is also like, and this is not just for Kubernetes, for cloud as well. So there is, I guess, if you go to the AWS website, there is a white paper which explains these things. Like there are 5 pillars that we should keep in mind, like operability, security, cost optimization, performance, and there is one more. So it explains these things in detail,
Hmm.
like what should be keep in. what should we keep in mind before designing a solution and all those things. So try to look into that, and after that try to use the same in Kubernetes. And with Kubernetes there comes a lot of other things as well. So yes.
Yeah, yeah, that is a good point. So like each cloud provider has their own like well architected framework kind of
Mhm.
guide. So look into that because every cloud provider has different set of services within the Kubernetes like environment, like managed Kubernetes environment. So you can take full advantage of the services that are available to you from AWS or Azure or GCP. But like Piyush said, and then when you dive into the Kubernetes itself, there is a whole like you know can of worms
Yeah.
that you might open. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So Priyanka is asking how to start learning cloud.
Hmm.
Okay, you wanna go ahead with that?
um yeah, just so familiar get again, go to prerequisites that I mentioned before. Have a good understanding of networking. It's really important. Learn some Linux because specifically for cloud, most of the servers that you'll deal with in cloud are gonna be Linux server. So like get good with the command line, uh, and learn all those commands that Piyush and I mentioned. Then start poking around a cloud provider like AWS, GCP, Azure. Pick any. And if you don't know which one, just go look at job postings, and whichever city you are in, look at job postings, see which one is the one that is mentioned the most.
Mhm.
Pick that cloud provider if you can't make the decision.
Yep.
um and yeah, start from the fundamentals of cloud computing. every I feel like every cloud provider has some kind of foundational certification at
Foundational
this point.
certification. Yeah.
So GCP has the digital leader. AZ900 is the Azure fundamentals, which is also one challenge that Piyush is running, so go check it out. I think that's a great way to start
Mhm.
in Azure.
Yep.
AWS has Cloud Practitioner, and they have resources available that are for free. And then YouTube creators, that are doing it for free on their channel. And yeah, familiarize yourself with services. You know, like what EC2 is, what RDS is, VPC. It'll take time because there's a whole lot of services, and
Yeah, and
uh,
like it sometimes it becomes overwhelming, especially when you are starting out.
definitely,
But you'll get used to it.
yeah,
Just keep that consistency, and it'll be fun after that.
definitely. And like stick to one cloud until you have, mastered some concepts. And then it's really easy to pivot to another cloud provider if that's the need. Or you can just be an expert in one and,
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so even I say this all the time. So the best way to learn the cloud is pick any certification in that cloud. Like if you are just starting out, like go with the foundation level certification, like all those that Rishabh has mentioned already. And because when you pick that certification, doesn't matter if you sit for the exam or not, but
Mhm.
they provide you with a well formalized and well organized certification learning path. And taking that path, you will know, okay, if I am starting out, if I am just absolute beginner to cloud, this is what I need to know as part of my learning journey. So it will be already provided to you. You just have to go ahead and learn it through, there are resources provided by every cloud provider. Then there are YouTube video tutorials, there are blog posts, there are so many resources available free of cost. So try to take advantage of that, and yeah, that should be a good start.
Mhm.
Okay. And okay, Suhas, I guess, yeah, we have answered this question already. Suhas mentioned it again. How much a business analyst should know about basic DevOps, which would help in project deliverables? Aniket, you are earning more than both of us, so so I don't think DevOps is for you. I don't think DevOps. You need DevOps. Like maybe you come to me and you tell me how to get into
Become
business
a
system
business.
analyst.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we should
yeah.
switch.
I'll reach out to you after the call. All right. So Ram is asking. what are the key differences between DevOps and DevSecOps, and how
Hmm.
does the inclusion of security in the development process, implement software development, deployment, and management? That's really an amazing question.
Um, yeah, so my opinion on this is quite, I don't know, it's, I don't want to say controversial, but what I feel like is, even if you're not DevSecOps, even if you're not Cloud Sec, whatever you want to add in the front end sec
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
security,
Yeah.
you should always think about security.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's why you are seeing this shift. You know, we saw this trend on Twitter and like other platforms where companies are now referring to, like, there is no term as DevOps engineers now, and it's platform engineers. The reason being the same, because you now have, like, you have to keep security in mind. You can't leave, you know, port 22 open to the entire world because anyone can SSH into it now, you know, things like that. And you need to make sure proper authorization and authentication is required for all things that are in cloud or DevOps, right? You're not allowing, you're not assigning roles that have like admin access to run a simple CI/CD pipeline. So things like that you always have to keep in mind. And my experience when I worked as a DevOps engineer is, yeah, we paid full attention to, you know, the security side of things too. We make sure like our the SSL certificates are up to date; they're not expiring within the next month or so.
Yeah.
Um, the packages we are using within like Python or npm, like for JavaScript stuff, there there's no like, you know, outdated packages that we are using that have security vulnerabilities. And so if you start thinking of that way, I feel like security is already part of DevOps. It's already part of cloud. It's just that some companies will have dedicated security teams,
Yep.
but some of them don't have them. So in those cases, you, like, individual teams, either they are software developers or cloud engineers or DevOps engineers, they have to think of implementing security right
Mm-hmm.
within it so that when an audit happens, you don't fail the audit.
Yep.
And also, you know, just staying aware and like, don't cause like an outage or
Mm-hmm.
a security incident that might happen because you neglected something. um and I am, I feel like I come from this, like, I have this answer because I consider security to be really important. I'm huge into cybersecurity. Not that I want to shift like my career into it, but like, I listen to like Darknet Diaries and Hacked podcast a lot. Like every time a new episode is out, I listen to it just so that I'm aware and I
Mm-hmm.
have an interest in it. Um, but I feel like it's part of like everyone. Like, you know, things like don't leave your laptop unlocked.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that comes down to each and
Mm-hmm.
every employee. So like,
Yes.
you are thinking about company security, but in DevOps, I feel like, you know, just what I mentioned, like, um, make sure you have proper scans that detect intrusion and that detect that, oh,
Yep.
someone left one port open which was not supposed to be open. So you can do that with like config rules and policies in place, within any cloud provider. All of
Yes.
them offer
Yes.
this kind of control.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start thinking it that way, I don't feel like there's a difference between DevOps and DevSecOps. That's my take on it, but I'll leave
Yeah.
it to you,
Yeah,
please.
no, no, no. You have explained everything. So every cloud provider has these services built for you, and you should be like, once you start getting into cloud or you start building your projects on cloud, you should start using these services. Some are paid services, some are free to use, like security groups or network firewall rules,
Mm,
or these things are really important and at the very bare minimum level. Then you have tools such as AWS trusted, no, not trusted, security inspector. Then
yeah.
you have DDoS protection. Every cloud has DDoS protection, and it is really crucial nowadays. So we have DDoS protection standard and premium offering as well.
Hmm.
We have services like Recaptcha Enterprise. So there are amazing set of services that are available, which you can use to implement security in your cloud and DevOps environment, and try to make use of it. Try to use the principle of least privilege access. so
Yes.
that the users only have the permission that they needed to have, not more than that, not less than that, right? You don't want your operators to have admin level permissions and vice versa.
Hmm.
So yeah, try to make sure you understand identity and access management, things like active directory, roles, users, group permissions, everything about security is crucial nowadays. And it's one of the requirement that most companies has, like one of the top priority on their list. So
Definitely.
yeah, so I guess it's like DevOps and DevSecOps is kind of one thing. We would say there'll be security, as Rishabh mentioned. There'll be security always in DevOps or cloud or anything that you are working on. Security is kind of a must-have.
Hmm.
So yeah, but DevSecOps emphasize mostly on security part of it and not the other things. So yeah, I guess you have got the answer. Akshay is saying, I found Azure interesting, so I started my journey of cloud with Azure fundamentals only. That's
Awesome.
amazing, Akshay. That's good to know. Okay, so Suhas is saying, I am student, and thanks all for the clarification. He got the answer. We are glad, Suhas. Thank you. And okay, then Shubh is asking, Docker and Kubernetes. I hear these words everywhere these days. Yes,
Same
that's
here.
that that's the next big thing that is going on right now. Because we are in a phase where we have shifted from virtual machines to Docker and Kubernetes, and I'm not sure if virtual machine will be there always. There'll be some requirements. Yes, there'll be of course some requirement like for legacy application that requires lift and shift from on premises to cloud. But other than that, I don't see a need where we cannot use Docker and Kubernetes. Like
Yeah.
sometimes Kubernetes is an overkill if you have only a bunch of application that you want to host. But for that as well, every cloud provider has a service like Azure Container Instances or
Yeah. ECS
ECS,
for
yeah. And then
AWS
Google
and
also has Google Container Instances, I guess. I'm not sure,
yeah.
but yeah. But yeah, so yes, these terms you will hear a lot in the next few years at least. Yes. Okay, Ram is asking, just want to understand pipelines. Should we create isolated pipelines for front end, back end, and testing?
Hmm.
So you mean you need no? I mean that's not the way. Okay, so you go ahead, Rishabh, and then I'll add it to it.
I think it really depends. It's again like a broad question. I don't know the product. I don't know what
Mhm.
if it's a project, right? And w- like I could question why would we need different pipelines
Yeah.
for front end and back end, but on the other hand,
Unless they are different applications.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of, oh, maybe, there is a requirement of having different so it depends on the project, Ram, I guess.
Yeah.
But
But
for
there is no
testing,
standard guidelines to have the separate pipeline for each of the component. That totally negates the purpose of having different stages in a pipeline. That's why we have different
stages,
stages
yeah.
or different steps or whatever you want to call it. So you can run that as independent step rather than one big monolithic pipeline.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like maybe like your project and then testing can be different, but then again, like, yeah, there are questions that I would ask, like, why, right? Because as Piyush said, there are steps, there are stages that you can build within one pipeline, and that will depend on the previous stage to pass. So, like, all those checks can be in place, right? So things like that, you have to think and like keep questioning until you find your like answer.
Yeah. So Ram is saying, do we need enterprise grade monitoring for Kubernetes cluster, and why would an organization choose to invest in enterprise monitoring solution for Kubernetes?
Hmm.
Yes, definitely there are a lot of reasons why. Like you don't need to have it on your personal projects or your non-prod
Hmm.
environment, but for prod environments, yes, it is really a requirement when it comes to an enterprise level organization because of the support that it's provide, right? So if you are using an on-prem monitoring tool such as, let's say, Prometheus, because it is open source, you will get the community support, but there is, you can still open the GitHub issues and someone will look into it, but it does not have any SLO associated with it. right? There is no guarantee that someone will reply to you in, like, let's say, next 15 minutes or so, if your workload is really like production grade workload, and it has a business impact or user impact, right?
Mm,
But if you go with an enterprise solution, there'll be a dedicated support team, and based on the support plan that you have, let's say you are on a premium plan, someone would reply to your email or your support case within next 15 minutes, right? So that's the main benefit of using a support sorry an enterprise grade
mm,
monitoring solution, or any tool or any solution for that.
mm. Yeah, definitely. And I feel like also like the sometimes, uh, s- of course you get dedicated support, but there are some like there will be some companies and tools out there that are like, oh, we'll give you dedicated, solutions architect people to help you um, you know, implement the tool that you already have to see if you're measuring the right metrics and stuff.
Mhm. Yep.
Like you have like it could count under support, but like you have people who are an expert in that tool to help you, realize, oh, this might be important and how we can implement that. So you have a lot of help when you're on an enterprise license.
Mhm. Yeah, so let's say you have a requirement to maintain 99.99% availability for a particular service, right? So when you have this enterprise level support, you'll get the surety that you will get this much of availability for your service. And if for some reason there is any discrepancy in
Mm.
that, you will get the credit for it, for the
Yeah.
revenue that you have lost or the business impact that you have. So yeah, there is yeah, you were saying something.
Oh no. Yeah. 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 Exactly. So like you have a sense of assurance, and it is important at a big enterprise level to have that. So
Okay, so Prasanta Mohapatra is saying, I am a BCom plus MBA graduate having 2 years non-IT experience. How to convene the recruiter manager? Why I want to switch to DevOps and cloud? Um, I'm not sure if I understood the question. Uh,
yeah, it's yeah.
you want to move to cloud or DevOps in the same company that you are part of, and you have to convince your manager or recruiter for that. I
It
I'm not sure
depends.
that would be a
Yeah.
right way to do that, because
Yeah. So if you already have the skills, maybe then. But that, yeah, like we need details of like the situation you're in, and um like are you trying to move within one company and you don't have skills but you want to be in DevOps? So yeah, need more details.
yeah. Okay, so Habibur is asking, is it worth to learn Chef or should learn Ansible?
Hmm.
I guess if you are going with I guess if you are going with configuration management tool and there is a requirement to learn, I would say go with Ansible, because this is most widely used and it is easy to learn. With Chef, you have to learn Ruby as a language, and
Hmm.
then it has its own architecture, like master and slave architecture, that you have to understand before learning it. But Ansible, it is pretty straightforward. It uses YAML in the background, and you just get started. It is open source, and I think like Ansible has a lot of advantages over Chef. But Rishabh, what do you think?
Yeah, I think yeah, it all comes down to the requirements that you in like you might have to consider, like, oh, am I is it required by my job currently, or is it something that I want to learn because I want to upskill in like DevOps and stuff? And then there's a question of like how many companies are in your area that use Ansible or Chef, and which one do they use. But the other technical factors I think you already covered, Piyush. So
Yeah, cool. So Prasad is also here. Hello, Prasad. Glad to have you here. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Prasad. So he is part of Shubham's one of the DevOps batch, and he took that challenge very seriously. That 100 days of DevOps, he has been publishing blogs for the past 100 days
oh,
without any without any
break.
day, like without any break in between. And even though the challenge is over, even though he's completed 100
Oh,
days,
I know.
yeah,
I've seen those posts.
he's
Yeah,
been publishing like 101 days, 105 days. So I mean, kudos to your consistency, Prasad. Not everyone
consistency
can
is
does that. That's amazing.
awesome.
Jobanjit is here. Hello, Jobanjit.
Hey,
I hope you
Joban.
are doing great. And thank you, Shubh. We are glad you got the answers. So I guess, Rishabh, we will be wrapping this session another 4 minutes.
Yep.
Uh, and I hope we could go on. Like I'm really enjoying it. I hope you too. But I have that another session that we talked about,
Mhm.
so I have to go for that. And okay, Saurabh is asking how much one should know about networking to learn DevOps.
Networking in general, I think, not just for DevOps, any of the tech roles, I feel like I'm biased, but know it. If you don't know it now, it'll come bite you
Yeah.
maybe down the road.
Yes.
There's always going to be something wrong, and it's probably going to be networking when it's about it's the fundamental of how two computers communicate. And
Mhm.
if you think about the world we live in, even our cell phones communicate now over networks. So yeah, if you, it's a superpower, I feel like, if you know like each.
Yes.
And
That's the amazing point that Shubh highlighted, how internet work, OSI model. So if you
yes,
learn OSI model end to end in depth, all the protocol that it uses, everything, I mean, I guess it covers most of the networking part.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what like the internet is built on right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
um and like learn about, you know, the, yeah, like TCP/IP protocol, how it works, how the three-way handshake happens. It's really not that difficult, but people neglect it. I don't know, the one response I get is that networking is boring.
Mhm.
It, I don't know, it fascinates me like how
Yeah.
one packet is made sure that it will be delivered to another machine.
And it is fun to troubleshoot those things. Let's say you
Exactly.
have a scenario where you're saying your client is respond their client is making the request and server is not requesting back. Now you can blame the client or you can blame the server, but
Hmm.
the actual picture behind the scene you will get to know when you trace the network packet
Exactly.
or you find the bottleneck where the packet is actually getting lost.
Hmm.
So you wouldn't be able to do that if you don't know the networking concepts and OSI model, how packet communicates in a network and all those things.
Definitely. And like also like the HTTP in itself, like every other software or SaaS you use now has like an API, right? So like learning about network will also, like, you'll know about how these APIs work, like what is get, post, what is put, what are the different error codes you might get. And
Yeah.
that comes with practice. Like you'll know it right off, like, oh, this is why it's not working. And just like Piyush said, like, I think troubleshooting part is the one where it gets interesting, and that's when you'll realize, oh, you know, I should have known networking.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Okay,
great,
so
yeah.
Guru is also here. Hi,
Hey,
Guru.
Guru.
Glad you are here. And he's saying Cloud Run and App Engine. Yes, I forgot those names when we were discussing about Kubernetes could be an overkill for just couple of applications. So yes,
Hmm.
these services can be used, and I work on these services, but somehow it skipped my mind at that time when we were discussing. So thanks for bringing that out. And yes, there are a lot of other questions as well, but we are running out of time. So sorry, folks. So we cannot take more questions for now. But you can join our Discord server, and we will keep having these sessions, and we'll keep answering your questions, whatever you have. And I hope this was valuable to you. And I'll add all the links that we discussed. Maybe Rishabh, can you ping me your
For sure.
cloud repo, the repo link and the roadmap that you have built for cloud and DevOps, and I'll share that in the description section of the video. So feel free to have a look at that. And thank you so much for joining the session and helping us answering these questions. And it was amazing talk to you as always. So we'll keep in touch, and thank you so much.
Yep. No, thank you, Piyush, for having me. And yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Okay, cool. Thank you everyone. Take care. Bye.